Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Tamika Smith of glowupgirl.com. Tamika, it's awesome to have you on the show.
Thanks. It's a pleasure being on with you today.
Yeah, definitely. Super excited to have you on. And what I wanted to do was just read a little bit more about Tamika so you can hear about all the awesome things that she's doing. And a domestic violence survivor and speaker, thriving to share her message in the world through 3 self-published books. Now she encourages dreamers to doers of the world. With faith, courage, and humility, her message has been shared on Huffington Post, Good Housekeeping, and several TV radio outlets. Check out her blog at glowupgirl.com. Tamika, are you ready to speak to the I Am CEO community?
I am ready.
Awesome. Let's do it. So the first question I had was to hear a little bit more about what I call your CEO story. What led you to start your business?
It was actually when I was having one of those pitfall moments that we all have in life. And it was when I was, in a rocky relationship and I got an order of protection. And it was just then at that point, I was like, I had one of those aha moments where I was like, man, when I was listening to other stories and then when I told my own story, and it just moved me to like write my book. And then one book turned into many and to just share my story because it was so important to inspire other people. And I had that call to action to just do more than just go on with my life after that rocky relationship, because it was a pivotal point in my life to just do more.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously sorry to hear that you had to go through that. But did you find that in writing the story, telling your story, that you've been able to, I guess, find some type of peace maybe, but also being able to help empower others at the same time? Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, it is accurate to say that it was therapeutic in a way to, as I was going through my own processes and, knowing that I had a book in me, but allowing myself to get healed before I actually wrote the book. So I wasn't coming from a place of bitterness, in a place of peace. And when I was able to share my story without worrying about what people are going to think, what family's going to say, and not allowing shame to hold me back and being afraid to go out in confidence on platforms as yourself to speak about, how I did this and where I'm at now, to inspire other people that, yeah, we're going to have pitfall moments, but we can make the best out of life from those pitfall moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say, it definitely takes a lot of courage to be able to, tell your story, to put yourself out there and to be kind of, naked, so to speak, to tell exactly what has happened to you and how you've been able to overcome that. And then I kind of feel like when you start to tell a story, you start to show that courage. It also brings about the courage in other people, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. I've countless of people that come up to me at several speaking engagements, like, thank you for sharing your story. And it was this one woman that was actually a family friend. And when I did share my book with her, and she was like, wow, thank you for writing that book and sharing your story. It encouraged me to get out of an abusive relationship for 40 years. I'm like, man, that's older than I am. And to imagine, was in it for 4 years, but 40? That just blew my mind.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't think that there's sometimes a better way or an alternative. So sometimes you can find yourself, whether it be a difficult situation or like we were talking about, domestic violence, that's something where sometimes people feel like that's the only way. But you've been able to tell that story of how you've been able to get out of it, empower somebody, whether it was 4 years or 40.
Yes. And so, even with not even necessarily abusive relationships, just being able to inspire other people for them to get out of, like I say, dreamers to doers. We get into social media where we're scrolling our lives away. It can be on for intentionally 5 minutes and then it can turn into an hour. And, if we just imagine what we can do in that 1 hour, we can write an outline for a book. It's so much other things that we can do with instead of just going through the motions of life.
Exactly. And I know we touched on it a little bit. I touched on it a little bit when I read your bio, and you touched on it a little bit, but could you tell us, I guess, a little bit more about like what you're doing to kind of support the clients that you're working with?
So right now, just as of January 1st, I launched a podcast called Meaningful Messages.
Awesome.
And to, spread the messages that I have that, because it is based on my own faith. And by that, the Dreamers to Doers, to also launch a class to help others, because, also with the testimonies I get, how do I write a book? How do I get disciplined? How do I do this? So I want to teach others how I did it. So that's what's next for me, is to launch Dreamers to Doers.
Awesome. Awesome. And Dreamers to Doers is going to be, it's going to be the podcast itself, or it's an offshoot of the podcast?
So it's like an offshoot of the class. It's going to be just a website where
Okay.
you can have like e-learning courses, and it's going to be interactive and doing some consultations as well.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, that's definitely, powerful and awesome, because a lot of people, like I, just mentioned, that they don't realize that you can do something like that. You can write your own book, you can tell your own story, and that way you can self-publish, as you've been able to do a lot of times. So again, that's awesome that you're able to kind of give back and been looking to give back to people that want to do something like that.
Absolutely. I think we all have a story to share. So, that's a part of the digital legacy. When we're long gone, to have, what do you want to be known by? You have a story. Why not share it? It doesn't take all that. We get caught up in these thinking thoughts that we can't write a book, but it's not as hard as it seems.
Exactly, exactly. We caught up in making sure everything's perfect. So we're like, ready, aim, 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 and we never actually take action. So it's important to kind of do that.
Absolutely. So I'm just there to do that bulldozer, be that pusher for a lot of people.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And now I wanted to ask you for what I call your secret sauce. And this could be what you feel kind of distinguishes you or your organization, what kind of sets you or even your podcast apart.
Just recognizing that I am a change agent. A lot of people just don't recognize the power that they have within, and we all have that charge to ignite someone else. And just realizing with me, being that change agent for someone else to help impact others, and to be there also that word of encouragement and bringing the humanity part of it, not just sell, 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 but having the know and the like factor before you sell, because it's more than a transaction. I want to help change your life or catapult you to do something else, because I just have a strong base where I'm thinking, okay, somebody planted in me, like it says, it's a saying that goes, one man plants another word, and God gets the increase. So as we're increasing our faith, as we increasing other people, it can just be a change that we can actually see in the world.
Absolutely. And I love that, because a lot of times sometimes we think when you have to, and you want to make change in somebody's life, you have to, build a tree, you have to create a whole entire forest. But in reality, it sometimes can start with just a seed, like you mentioned, and it can grow and manifest itself into something that's really life-changing for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And it's just the impact of our words. It can be so much for somebody else. It's just that one person, you can create a whole world. And we're focused on the amount, but it's actually the quality. And that's how you have a strong base in your business, your podcast, the books. It's just that counter effect of the exchange, and we lose the humanity because we're focused on the transactional part of it.
Right, right. You kind of sometimes forget. I always say sometimes if you peel back the onions of businesses or transactions, you forget that it's made up of people. And, people have that humanity aspect, that people aspect, the feelings, the emotions, all those things that you kind of forget about, because you're just thinking, buy and sell and, increase revenue and numbers along that lines. But it kind of sounds like you have that strong foundation. It kind of sounds like, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, because you're mission driven as well, that has helped out a lot.
Oh yeah, it has definitely helped out a lot. Just that mission, just that drive to push other people to be inspired, because when I'm not selling, I'm also a consumer. So I know how it is. If I want to do a webinar, buy a webinar, what is it that I'm benefiting from, and not just the transactional part of it?
Exactly, exactly. That makes perfect sense. And that's definitely, a great reminder. And I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you for what I call a CEO hack. And this might be an app, a book, or a habit that you have, but it's something that makes you more effective and efficient.
All right. So when I thought of the CEO, I was like, well, what's a hack for me to know again that I'm the change agent? Like, I'm a change evaluator official as an entrepreneur. So I know that I can see a problem just like I saw my own problem, and I hacked into it to create books, to tell my story, and to help inspire other people.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So it makes perfect sense because sometimes we forget, like we were talking about, what's kind of been the theme of what we've been talking about, that you have a lot more power within you to kind of make that change, to make that impact. And if you just kind of flip that switch, so to speak, you can start to make a lot of things happen.
Oh yeah, it's just a power of a decision.
Yep, absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. And now I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO nugget. And this is a word of wisdom or piece of advice, or if you can hop into a time machine, what would you tell your younger business self?
I would tell my younger business self to not allow the rejection to get the best of me. You're going to have no's and you're going to say yeses, but the yeses are much more meaningful. Even the no's, they're much more meaningful. That gives you the drive to keep going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you find that you have to kind of just take a step back and understand, like when a no actually happens, that it's not final. It could be either redirecting you towards something else, or it could be helping you to improve something else. Do you find those things kind of happen and go through your brain?
Yeah, because at first it was like dealing with rejection, which a lot of people just don't understand that part of entrepreneur. They think once I launch this business baby, that everybody's going to get into it.
Right.
So when I realized that, okay, I got to know it could be for other reasons and not take it so personal.
Yeah, and I think that's what I try to do as well too. Is a lot of times when I'm talking with somebody and it ends up being a no, whether it be a proposal or whatever, I also try to take it as a learning experience and ask questions like, why was it? And sometimes, and a lot of times, it has really nothing to do with you. A lot of
Mhm.
times, it might just be for it's just not the right time, but you have to kind of probe and ask those questions so that you kind of get that data and that information.
Yeah, because we could just be missing out on something that we could help be more effective later on. And that's the
Mhm,
key component for getting better. We have to mistake our way to success. And
mhm.
I mean, even if, I don't even really think it's a mistake because it's a lesson along the way. So even if you get that no, how can you be better for that yes? So you're ready for that big door once it opens. Because a lot of us ask for, doors to be opened, but are we really prepared for them?
Right, right. And like like you've been saying, is that it's a process. It takes to get there. So it's not just like you put out your shingle and then you're in business, and the next thing when you wake up the next day, you're gonna be a millionaire. It takes a process and time in order to get there. And sometimes you have to go through a lot of no's and a lot of quote unquote rejection, and get rerouted towards where exactly that can lead you down that path.
Yeah, in the society that we're living in now, where everything is microwaved,
Hmm.
it's nothing like having a crock pot meal. I like to say, it's nothing like it. So just allow yourself to be processed.
Absolutely. As somebody who eats out of the crock pot a lot, I love that analogy. And yeah, definitely, there's no such thing as overnight success. As a process that it takes to get there. And that's, definitely a great reminder. And now I wanted to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And we're hoping to have different quote unquote CEOs on the show. But Tamika, I wanted to ask you, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Well, being a CEO means that I'm in charge of decisions and not being afraid to make decisions and being a risk taker. And being a risk taker, sometimes, like we said about rejection, you're going to get those no's and you're going to get those yeses, and having an impact in what I like to call a metron of people that I'm assigned to help inspire them and to have that open door of communication so I can listen to my customers about what they want, what they need from me, so I can give it to them for the best, and to overdo it, to over be, I guess, what you call a servant, because we're all servants. It's a CEO, not to get stuck in a title, but serving people. That's what it's about for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that definition and that perspective, because a lot of times when you look at, what it is to be a CEO, whatever that title might be, CEO, CMO, owner, whatever, business owner, entrepreneur, you're a leader. And a lot of times when you're a leader, you have to be able to understand that you're a servant, that you're serving your clients, you're serving the people that you're working with, you're serving your teammates. So that's a great perspective to kind of keep in mind.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they want the title, the recognition, but the work behind it, that's where the people stand out beyond 15 minutes of success. How do you have that staying power? So that's where it boils down to, as far as a quote unquote CEO is for me, having that staying power.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that definition. And Tamika, I truly appreciate you for taking some time out. What I want to do was pass you the mic just to see if there's anything additional you want to let our readers and our listeners know, and of course, how best they can get a hold of you.
Well, thank you again so much for being on here. And anyone that wants more information, wants to listen in to the Meaningful Messages, I'm on at least 3 times a week. You can go to Meaningful Messages. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Google, I'm on Apple, Stitcher, Anchor FM. And you can also just reach me on Glow Up Girl. I'm on Periscope. I'm on Twitter, Miss Wordsmith. So you can find me. I'm definitely on social media.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll put those links in the show notes too, just so that anybody can follow up with you. But Tamika, I truly appreciate you for all you're doing, for being, transparent and being able to tell your story and empower others. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day.
Oh, thanks. And you do the same.